Angelica, correct?
No.
Angelita.
Angelita. Think of jelly. Angelita.
Angelita.
Angelita. Oh,
There you
it
go.
changes every time. Angelita. Think of hell.
We are ready.
You ready?
3, 2, 1.
And good morning. Welcome to the Texas Real Estate Show. And we just want to welcome everybody. If you're interested in real estate, or you want to learn more about real estate, or you just want to get more information, then this is the place to come. And as always, to the right of me, I have the one and only lone lady this morning. Unfortunately, Courtney's sick, but we've got the one and only Laura Zuniga. Did I say that properly?
Yeah.
I always get it wrong. Okay.
Zuniga.
With Lone Star Premier Mortgage. I didn't use the other word like I used yesterday. Now, this morning we have a special guest. I'm going to let her introduce herself because I've got her name wrong every time. And here we go. Introduce yourself. You're from Stewart Title.
Yes, Angelita Negrete. Angelita Negri.
And you,
English
and,
and
you, and, you, and you wonder how I can get that wrong. I mean, come on, eh? Go on. Okay, so you work for Stewart Title. Do you do residential, commercial?
We do majority residential, a little bit of commercial.
Okay, all right, that's pretty interesting. Is there much difference doing the title work with commercial compared to residential?
Just very slightly. I mean, commercial is a little bit more in detail. We have a lot more people that's involved. Residential can get a little fun, with title problems and dead people and stuff like
emotions.
that. So, yeah.
Okay.
So
Well,
it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about that later on. But first of all, we're going to kick off the show this morning with the top 10 good things about Houston and the top 10 bad things about Houston. And we're just going off the fly on this. I mean, we're just, as Houstonians, we just want to give our top 10 things that we think are the best and the worst about Houston. Laura, go on, you go first. What's the best thing that you think there is in Houston?
I think the best thing in Houston is Buc-ee's because they're right outside Houston. You can pack up some ice and a nice cool beer or drink or your favorite drink, whatever, and go out camping, So I like hiking, so I make sure that I stop at Buc-ee's once. Anywhere I go, you stop at Buc-ee's right before your camping trip. It's awesome.
Yeah, and Buc-ee's
their barbecue sandwich. I love it.
Yeah, but I find their barbecue sandwich a little bit on the sweet side. They use too much brown sugar, but they've got some pretty interesting stuff at Buc-ee's, and it's nice to know now that Buc-ee's is going. Apparently, it's going nationwide, which is good.
It kind of sucks because I wanted it to be a Texas thing. So I guess we gotta share.
Perhaps you just need to travel more. Okay, so what's the worst thing in your opinion?
Worst thing, I think public transportation. There's not enough public transportation. I mean, because I've been watching a couple of stuff, and I think that's one of the number one things.
Yeah, I think public transportation sucks in Houston.
We haven't developed any further than the light rail that we have downtown, so it's kind of sad.
And they've tried to do that.
As big as we are.
Right, I mean, fourth largest city in the States. No, I'm sort of agree with that. And how about yourself? What do you think? I'm letting you ladies go first because then it makes it a little bit harder for me. What do you think is the best, another good thing about living in Houston?
The best in Houston, I think, is the food.
I knew she was going to say the food.
There is
being Hispanic. I knew she said you.
Absolutely, and there's a lot of Tex-Mex food if that's what you like, and for Hispanic, or you can go to those truck tacos. Those are the best ones, I think. Have the best, tortas and salsas and So
she even says it properly. Look.
Yes.
I'm fully
when I go to one of them food trucks and ask for a torta or I go for a taco, they haven't got a clue what I'm on about.
You're gonna say taco.
And even in the Asian community too, they have great, depending on where you want to, what you feel like eating. We have, Chinese, we have Vietnamese, we have
Korean,
we have pretty much
Japanese.
Thai food. Yes,
We have-
we
we
have a
have African
variety.
food.
Houston has a
Yes.
huge Asian community in general.
Yes, and if you want soul food, they have that too. So
Soul food, yeah. Kay keeps telling me that she's going to take me to the turkey leg hut, but she never takes me. And then, as you say, great food, what we're going to do while we're on it, we're talking about food. This is an example of good food. It was Kay's birthday a few days ago, and just so we know that we love her so much, she's in the back. Here we go. We got a cake
Can I
from
show
her.
it a little bit?
Yeah, you can do.
and it smells good
Just a
too.
little bit.
In the right way.
In the right way. What's the right way?
I was thinking the
I don't
right
know.
way anyway.
So we got her this cake, and it's from a bakery. I think it's a Mexican bakery called La Carraz, which I absolutely love that place. I'm not over keen on the breakfast there in the morning, like rolls, which is
have to go
because
there. I think this is
I
just
don't
like a
like
tiny
eating
person
too much carbs, but the cakes are absolutely fantastic there. The flan is good. All the there's a little bit of savoury stuff, but not much. Okay, I'm going to say one of the number one reasons why I like Houston, although I haven't had it for a long time, is Shipley's Donuts. Shipley's kolaches. Yeah.
They are the best.
They are. I think they are honestly the best. There used to be another one called Southern Made. They're pretty good as well, but I think Shipley's have really taken it. I think they took a hit in COVID. But I think Shipley's Donuts, is pretty good. On the whole, great. Try it with mustard. They're really good. I'm not into the jalapeno thing because we've had a discussion. You Hispanics like your jalapenos.
Yes,
Yeah.
we do.
Yeah, if you like
Spice it up.
if you like a burned throat, take your jalapenos.
Some
I
of
just
them are
think
not
British
hot.
people can't handle hot stuff. Do you like
What are we
spicy
talking
food?
about?
Like spicy food.
No, I'm not into spicy food at all. I'm really not. I am not. And one of the negative things that I think in Houston is I think the roads are disgusting. There's potholes.
I think so.
I used to be into high-end cars. I had a Mercedes SL 63. I've got a roller at the house, a Rolls Royce, 1979 Silver Wrath. It's an antique. I've got a beach buggy, believe it or not. I had an Alfa Romeo 4C, and driving them cars on the roads in Houston is a joke. Even driving it from the road, to a driveway, even to the office, it catches the bottom all day long.
That's
So-
funny that you say that, because not too long I'm like, okay, if I was to purchase a car, I would have to be careful what kind of car to purchase, because there's so many potholes everywhere and it messes up the tires and the wheels.
The wheels and everything.
Everything.
And my wife,
Everything.
my wife drives a Mercedes E450, and I can't tell you, every time we go out for something to eat, you've got them concrete bars at the front. She can't park going into the front because it will catch on the concrete.
Yes.
She's got to reverse in there.
Back it up.
So I really think it's a real problem.
Yeah.
So where are we now? We're on number 4. So what's the fourth best thing and the fourth worst thing that you think about Houston?
Fourth. Wow.
If you want to
I
pass,
think
you
best
can. I mean,
thing-
don't worry.
I think we have like a lot of medical. So every time that you need a specialist or everything, you have one downtown. That's like
Even the
a
cancer
peace of
center.
mind.
I think it
Cancer
depends who
center.
your insurance company is, because I've tried that, and being epileptic, one person told me I've got to wait 9 months, and yet when somebody else made the call, I'm not saying who made the call, then I'll get an appointment in less than 14 days.
Yep.
So,
It's who
you know,
sometimes.
that's the political side of, and I really think it's an industry. I don't think they give a damn about your health.
But I think we have the best medical care.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I came here, actually.
And you know,
I was fooled. But
depending on the sickness or illness of a particular person.
when I first came over here from the UK, there was actually people on the flight that were specifically coming over here on the flight for the Houston Medical Center.
I actually have
There
a
was
buyer
there was
from
there was
Austin.
there was cancer patients, and they was flying them over on the plane.
I have a buyer from Austin, and she's coming to Houston to get her treatment twice a month. So,
Well,
I mean, thinking Austin is a big city, right?
yeah.
So, but she likes the treatment here. So,
Well,
that's a good satisfaction, I think.
no, absolutely. And go on then. Your fourth worst thing.
The fourth worst thing, it saddens me because every time I like to go to the Minute Maid Park, meaning to go see the Astros, I see a lot of homeless camping out in that section of town.
I really don't
I
think.
think it's gotten worse over the years. It just keeps on growing.
So how do you solve it?
I don't know how to solve it.
That's the problem with homelessness. I think that what they need to do is have some sort of affordable housing. It's the same for the people on the border. I think we should house them but put them to work. And I think it's the same with some of the people. I had a real bad experience about 10 years ago with a homeless guy, panhandler on the street, and I got a goodie bag together with him from McDonald's when I was eating McDonald's, and I gave him, I think it was like the 2 cheeseburger meal, and there was no drink with it. It was just a 2 cheeseburger meal and fries, and he wanted cash, and he got it, and he threw it on the floor. And that really, I'll never ever. Well, I say that this morning I gave somebody some money because he was outside the cake shop, and he looked like he needed a sandwich or two, but on the whole, I don't give money to panhandlers anymore. And I said to you earlier on, or was it Kay? For the first time in my life, I seen a sign under a bridge, and it said, it basically says, like when you go to the zoo, and it says, "Please don't feed the animals." But this one says, you do not have to give any money to the panhandlers.
Yeah, it's become a real problem. And like, even if you go like to Target on a weekend, you're probably going to see some, even with kids out there, which is sad.
Do you know there's some gas stations where I will not go and put gas in my car if I feel that there's people loitering around there.
Yeah, it's unsafe. I would agree.
My wife's the same way as well. She just won't do it. There's one gas station I used to go to all the time. I know the guy very well, and basically, I just won't go because there's a group of people, and whether it's a case of the police won't move them on or the owners don't enforce it, but to me, because of repercussions, let's just put it like that. But no. How about you? What's another good thing that you like about Houston?
Another good thing that I like about Houston,
Apart from you meeting interesting people like us.
there's a variety of employment. There's opportunities if you want it. You have colleges around here. If you want to increase your knowledge or your education, there's so much opportunities here. Rather you want to be in real estate, rather you want to be in the medical field. If you want to achieve some type of goal or learn something different, it's there. So we have a lot of those kind of opportunities.
I think there's a lot of good colleges. My wife works at one of the universities. She's a professor at one of the universities, and there's a lot of good colleges with a lot of high standards in Houston. She does nothing but tell me how much I've got to raise my standards all the time, so you get used to that. But that's what your wife's there for, I guess. But the truth of the matter is, I totally agree with you. Yeah. And what another thing you don't like about Houston?
It's overcrowded. It's overpopulated. There's too many people.
But when you say overcrowded, do you mean like the center of Houston, or do you feel?
I would say the center of Houston. I mean, even if you go a little bit out on the outskirts, it's starting to overcrowd. Like for instance, Pearland. I mean, I've been in Manville, maybe Rocheron area. Like I'd say maybe about 14 years ago, and when you go out there now, you're just like it's just blown up over there.
Absolutely.
So
One of the things I just want to say to you is I was looking at statistics last night, and it was saying that over the last 20 years, Houston has expanded. All right, but the last 2 years, it's had a negative number where people have actually left Houston. Now, I don't know whether then it's only like -1% or -2%. It's not a lot, but what I was wondering was when they say, are they leaving Houston proper, or are they going to live in the burbs? Because to me, the burbs are just exploding. I mean,
That's true.
they really are just exploding. And so, that's why I think that, I think Houston is exploding.
yeah, for sure.
Like at one time, everything was contained within 610. Now it's like the new 610 is what? Beltway 8. Beltway 8. And now they're building 99, which is going to be another ring road, giant ring road, which is going to go around Beltway 8.
Yeah.
So pick your number. I'm going to say one of the things that I like about Houston is its utter diversity. I like the diversity of the city. I've always enjoyed it. I've lived a lot of places all over the world, Australia, many parts of Europe. I've spent some time in South America, and I've got to say that I really like the diversity, and I enjoy the diversity of our office. And I really like that. One of the negative things that I think about Houston, to be perfectly honest, is not just the roads themselves, but at times the congestion that we get.
Yes.
The amount of traffic that we get, and it's a little bit like I-10 at one time, which is one of the busiest roads in the US, was how many lanes was it each way? Was it 2 or 3? I-10 I think used to be 3 lanes. Then they expanded it to 8 lanes and a toll road. So you've got each way. So you've got 10 lanes each way. Come on, guys, 10 lanes. Now, when you drive down I-10, it's like, do we need
Parking
more?
lot.
Do we need some more?
Yeah.
Well, and then I-10 is known for the truck drivers going in and out of Texas too. So there's a lot of truck drivers on that I-10.
Yeah.
So
I really feel that, a lot of these roads now, they're widening. 288 that you said about Pearland, Alvin, Angleton, down to Lake Jackson, down to the coast. That is definitely,
Oh yeah, there was a
widened
lot
up.
of construction when I was going to the Lake Jackson. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When I went down there Tuesday, I mean, it's
that is true.
and the police love me down there. And also I-45, that has widened up over the years. That's widened up a little bit down to Galveston. So, So the next yes and the next no, what do you think, Laura?
The next
Getting
yes.
harder, isn't it?
It's getting harder, yes. The next yes, that's interesting.
The next goodie and the next baddie.
Well, I think the yes, the best thing, it's like you said, diversity. And that's because diversity exists in not only in our neighborhoods, but schools, any public place pretty much that you go, it's pretty diverse. I think you can find anybody in the world pretty much anywhere you go.
So one of the things I'm gonna sort of throw something at you, because you mentioned it earlier on, and I think it's something that we should. But the schools on the whole in Houston, they're not that bad, are they?
Some areas.
I mean, some of the
tough,
burbs
but,
are better. But they're really not as bad as what's his name? What's our governor called? Or lack of a governor?
You're talking about our governor?
Yeah.
What's wrong with him?
I don't even want to mention his name. Wanting to, do away with the Houston school district. It's only the 5th largest school district in the country, and if you don't think it's got problems, then get yourself a life, boy. But basically, you look at Alvin, you look at Pearland, you've got Cypress, you've got Klein. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they said that Klein, they thought didn't have the same standards that it used to have, but I don't think that, because I spoke to other people and they say that's a good school district. I think there's some good school districts. And then also what you've got now in Houston general, you've got some Harmony schools, which there's a lot of people that love the Harmony school system. So I think schools in itself, some families, I live in not a great area, but I live in a private estate within not a great area. There's only 24 houses. We're lucky enough to have an acre that we live on. With 4 old English sheepdogs, you need it. But the truth of the matter is, there's a lot of good schools if you want to go there. We put our kids in private school, which personally I think you should get a break on your property taxes. There again, we made the personal choice to put our kids in private school, and it worked out very well. Shout out for St. Thomas Episcopal School. They're rebuilding the school because they got flooded. Okay. How about one of the negative things then?
The negative things, I'm going to agree with one of our realtors. I don't get excited too much about football anymore. So I think there needs to be a change there. My personal opinion.
When you say football, you mean as in the Texans?
Yes.
Yeah, well that's not real football anyway. So
I like watching college football. That's more entertaining to me than
a lot of people say that. A lot of people get more excited about. Yeah, I agree. But don't take nothing away from a JJ Watt shirt that I've got downstairs, which is signed. And what's the other one I've got? Andre, is it Hopkins?
Andre Johnson?
No, Andre Hopkins. Is it Hopkins?
Hopkins.
Yeah, he used to play. Yeah, but any of the signed shirts, I'm always out there with my hands out saying, "Gimme, gimme, gimme." But basically, I think one of the plus things is I think it is very diverse in Houston, but I think we've got a Chinatown. We've got a new Chinatown, which is making the existing Chinatown bigger. A big project's being announced that a new Chinatown is being developed at the Pavilions on Westheimer, which is going to be one of the biggest developments apparently in the Asian culture. I think the biggest Asian population are in California, aren't they, Kay?
I think so.
Yeah, and I think Houston is number 2, and then
and we have like this big, I have a friend that she's from India, and I know they have a big Indian temple as well in
the one in Missouri City.
So it's very like,
yeah.
in regards to culture, religion, and all of that.
Yeah,
I think it's also very diverse.
You know, I'm not religious at all. Call me Mr. Atheist. But basically, there is a absolutely phenomenal temple that we have, which is in, I don't know if you class it as Sugarland or you class it as Stafford, and it is a full temple. It is a Hindi temple that's been brought over from India, block by block. All right, I'm sure Lego did it. All right, and they brought it over block by block, and it is the most phenomenal building you will ever visit. And they have a celebration in November. I think it's October, November they have, and we went there one year, and it was absolutely incredible. Plus you buy all these Indian snacks that are homemade and they're cheap.
Yeah. And we have a lot of great festivals as well. Like we have Greek Festival, Margarita Festival.
Have you ever,
events.
Have you ever been to the Greek Festival?
Yes.
Do you know the thing that I thought was the neatest thing with the Greek Festival? It's all homemade food.
Yes.
Yeah. And one of the good things well, one of the bad things that I don't like about Houston is lack of green space. I wish there was more green space and sidewalks, because in the modern day, we all need to work out, as you can tell by looking at me. But basically, we all need to work out, but it's very difficult to work out. Very, very. How about in the burbs? Where do you live?
I live in the southeast area.
The southeast area. Is there sidewalk?
Sagemont area.
Is there sidewalk? Oh, Sagemont. Okay, that's a good area.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good area. That's developed over the years. We sold a lot of foreclosures over there in 2008, and it's a fabulous area, and the prices have gone through the roof. What are the? Do you have sidewalks?
We do. Not many, not enough, but there
Because
is
it's not
sidewalks.
mandated into Mr. Greg Abbott. He was never mandated.
Oh, we're not going to mention his name.
Well, I could mention him in other words, but that would be considered.
Polite.
You two might decide to take us off the air, so I'm not going to do that.
But yeah, I agree with you. Green space, it's should be a little bit more in the city, but it's not.
Yeah, I'd like to see more green space. I really would. I think it would help a city. Homelessness is a problem, but the problem with homelessness is how do you deal with it?
Just go to the Margarita Festival.
What, and just get them drunk?
No, get yourself drunk. You'll forget about it. At least for a second or two.
But I feel sorry for these guys. I mean, I feel that there should be I do feel that, there's some good charities out there that do some great work. Star of Hope. They do some good charities, to get them going. At times, I think everybody needs a leg up. Everybody needs, just a little bit of help.
A little push.
Yeah.
See, you agree with me. Second chances.
It all depends what type of second chances we're talking about. If you're saying for somebody getting their life together, then yeah, maybe you need a bit of a second chance, but learn from your mistake the first time.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, as we all
My
do.
dad always said, somebody that's smart never makes the same mistake twice. And he was a gambler. So, I want to sort of lead on a little bit now. So now we're going to sort of go on to just general title questions, because I've got some questions for you. And we can clip this later on, and then Kay can make it into a clip. And let's talk about common mistakes that agents make when they're dealing with Stewart title.
Oh my goodness. Well, common mistakes.
Just don't mention my name.
I won't. I think, with the way things are happening in our world today, and the economy, some people are feeling it, some people are not. It's an advantage for ones and not for the other. So there's a lot of fraudulent stuff starting to happen and stuff. And I think agents need to create a better relationship with their clients, ask more questions, even especially on the listing side. Be a little nosy, find out marital status, who's this person, who's that person, why. And my biggest thing to real estate agents is tell us like it is up front so we can figure out a solution to fix it.
All right, go on. I'm going to interrupt for a reason.
Okay.
Right. What do you think is the biggest mistake that an agent makes? Because I know what it is.
You do?
In my opinion, yes.
Communication, maybe? I mean...
I tell you what I think the biggest mistake that an agent makes is they don't ask for their driving license.
Oh, yes.
So the name on the driving license is the same that's on the contract.
Well, let me tell you, yes. And what we do, I've gotten to the habit of our office asking for copies of driver's license from buyers and sellers. And the biggest thing too is we have a lot of Hispanics that are in our office, so we can't take matriculas, which is an ID, it's a Mexican ID. And so the worst thing is that they don't send us their identification, and if it's a matricula or it's expired, the driver's license expired. So that's a big thing. We don't ever pay attention. We forget. We renew our driver's license every 4 or 5, maybe 6 years. And it comes up on our birthday. Who's going to really go and pay attention to their driver's license? It's expired.
And what's interesting, an instance that happened, one of my agents came and said to me a couple of weeks ago, it was somebody that was, and if you think about it, it's common sense, somebody that was 80 years old was selling her house, all right, and she's selling a house, and she didn't have a passport. There's no need for an 80-year-old to have a driving license. So she had to go to the DMV to get a driving license just to sell a house.
Yep. And then being expired. And for us, even like the Hispanics, and so during COVID, it was really hard to get a passport. It took too long. But now you can go get a passport, and so that's not even an excuse anymore. You know, it used to be, you know, because you had to make an appointment, and there was not a lot of appointments. But now you can find wheels, you know, the Mexican consulate on wheels on the weekends, make an appointment, and you get it right then and there. So that's one of the big thing too, is we try to get driver's license, copies of their identification that they plan to use for closing. So
Okay. All right. Next point I want to ask you. We manage a lot of properties that are owned by investors that are out of the US. All right. And I want you to explain what is the process if somebody who owns a property who lives outside the US, they file their taxes every year, there's a holdback, isn't there?
yes.
Can
It's
you explain that?
Yes,
Because I think that's important for agents and investors
Absolutely.
to understand that.
Yes. So it's called FRIPTA. So if they do not live in the U.S. and they live outside in another country, but they have real estate here and they're wanting to sell, we have to withhold, I believe it's 15%.
It varies with different. I thought it varies, doesn't it, with different title companies?
I mean, I can't speak for everybody else. I'm not really sure.
I've seen it as 15%.
I've seen it as 15%
You just seen it as
as well.
15, because I know at one time somebody held back 20%, and I didn't know if it was varying between different title companies. So we'll take it as a 15%.
The ones that
15%.
I've seen for Canada, Peru, but Argentina, and Mexico, they all have been, all those transactions, at least in my case, have been 50%.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So I would say 15% as well. And so we would, we have our own department that handles that, and that is sent to the IRS in behalf of them for taxes, for tax purposes, for IRS purposes.
And then what happens? Do they when they file their taxes at the end of the year, they can get a refund?
I mean, it just depends on where they fall in. You know, I'm not an accountant person, so I
No,
can't
I'm not
really
expecting
speak
to be,
for
but I
it.
mean, in the
If there is any type of refund that is due to them, I'm sure they'll cut the refund back to them. They
Okay.
should anyways, but
Yeah, they should.
okay, let's talk about.
But there's an exemption to it, right? Like if do they have an exemption? Like, for example, if they're selling it to a primary owner?
I want to say yes. There's a lot of in between. There's a lot of gray in between that.
Okay.
So it just depends on the situation. I do believe that if the homeowner, if they're selling it to a homeowner that's going to use it as a primary residence, then there is not going to be a withhold. But if they're selling it to an investor or a business or an LLC or a corporate, then we would withhold the 15%.
Right.
So we have to ask those questions. Those are questions
So
that we need to
if
ask.
somebody's buying the home to live in, then there isn't a 15% holdback.
I believe not.
If it's a primary.
Primary residence.
And that also applies to I-10 sellers. So if you're an I-10 person and you're selling your home because you're buying a new one, then that applies. I believe so.
Okay, that's pretty interesting, because we've got a
It's
guy
a
from
way-
China who's in the process of, I'll be listing his house shortly. And it's a pretty nice house, but he needs a bit of work, and he's just decided he just wants to sell it and be done with it. Next question. What are the points that an agent, I teach classes on this, that's one of the reasons why, but I want it to come from somebody who works on the title side.
Sure.
What are the points that an agent should be looking for on a title commitment?
They need to be looking at Schedule A, see who's in title, and then they need to go look at Schedule C to see if there's any issues on title.
Okay, so let's just go into that a bit deeper. Title A is basically the name on the deed, correct?
Correct. Who's in title of the property? Yes.
And Title C is, are there any liens, vendors liens, mechanics liens on that particular property?
Correct.
Okay.
And also, they can also pay attention to if there's a lien, let's say there's a deed of trust on there, look at that, because sometimes they'll have on there the person that's in title and maybe a spouse, if it says wife or husband and wife, or if there's another name, then we need to start asking questions. Say, okay, well, on the deed of trust, this person signed it as well. Who is that person? I mean, it can be the spouse, it can be a son and a daughter, and that's another thing. We cannot assume that it's a husband and wife just because it doesn't say it and they have the same last name, or they don't, because a lot of times it could be the son and the mom, or the daughter and the dad, or we need to ask those questions.
All right, next question.
I have a question.
Go on then.
Okay, so
I just
I
want to
had
do this
this
to make sure we haven't got a
asked
sound problem.
a while ago, and so what about can you explain a little bit if somebody's on title and is deceased, one of the persons on title is deceased, what's normally the process that
So the
followed?
the questions we need to ask is, number one, was there a will? And if there was it probated? Okay. If it was not probated, then we're going to prepare an affidavit of heirship. Okay. If they never had a will, we're going to prepare an affidavit of heirship as well. Very important thing is there needs to be 3 witnesses on there. The first one is going to be the one that completes that affidavit of heirship. And the 2 witnesses, they need to have known the deceased at least 10 years. And they cannot be blood related to the deceased person. Yes, so it needs to be like a church friend, a neighbor, somebody that knew them at least 10 years. Okay.
And do they have to prove a way that they know them, or they just
No, I mean, they're going to sign under oath, saying that they do believe whatever's listed on that affidavit of heirship, as in confirming, okay, if they were married, how many children did they have, stuff like that. So, because we're trying to figure out who are going to be the heirs and who needs to sign.
Okay. Great to know.
Also, one of the things I just want to state is correct me if I'm wrong, there's 2 types of title companies in the state of Texas, correct?
2 types of
Yeah. There's
like a fee attorney office.
Right, there's a fee attorney
yes.
office. Can you explain that to us? So you've got a fee attorney office where the attorney's actually in your office, or you just use an attorney?
The fee attorney offices are title companies that they're under an attorney. Well, I mean, it's not corporate. Like Stewart Title is corporate. We're not a fee attorney office. But as in the other title companies, which are fee attorney offices, they have a attorney that is holding a license to be the title company.
And the reason for that to everybody is the only way that you can produce a deed or something that's filed in court has to be done through an attorney, correct?
Correct.
In the state of Texas.
Yes.
That's why it's an important point that I'm bringing up.
And it needs to be a real estate attorney too, not just any attorney. It needs to be a real estate attorney.
Okay, then let me ask you another question. Do you think, and this is just your opinion, all right? We know you're not an attorney. In your opinion, do you think there's an advantage to a fee attorney office to an office like yourself?
This is what I tell agents all the time, in my opinion. You have to remember, as in your client, in the next maybe 10 to 20 years, is that fee attorney office going to be open? Or, you want to be able to, if there's an issue on title that should have been avoided or should have been caught whenever it was purchased, you want to make sure that the title company is going to be available, because then you got to go finding who was the underwriter. I tell agents all the time that if they use a title company that is going to that's going to exist in the next 20 to 30 years, that's who you want to use, because then that if there's any issue that arises, you'll be able to go back to that title company and they're still around. And of course, Stewart Title has an archive system, so we can go back from back in the days. I've had people call me that they closed in 1995 and they're looking for a survey, so they have a really good archive system to save that, all those documents. As a fee attorney's offices, you don't know how long they're going to be around.
Yeah.
So for me as an agent, I would want to close somewhere that I know that is going to back me up and my client and maybe be there if we need something.
I think it's more important that the title company are in business longer than the agent. Because agents float into the business and they float out of the business.
Yes.
For whatever reason, and I think it's important. And I think the communication is the most important part.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes there's some difficult questions to be answered, and there's some difficult points to be brought up with the buyers or the seller or different things. And I think that's really what's important. So what are the mistakes do you think agents make?
I feel like they need to just be more involved in their clients and know their clients. Not just, pick up any listing just from whoever that calls. Get to know them. Meet with them. Have the communication with them. Let them know what the process is. That way they're not upset and they don't get, anxious, and it's like even on a listing side and it's on a buyer side, have communication with them, let them know what's happening, let them know what to expect. That way, for us as a title company, if the agent wants to be involved, great, but you learn from every transaction. The agents learn what to ask for. Okay, well, this time, next time when I have something, let me start putting this on my list to be something to ask for.
But no two transactions are ever the same.
Never. You learn something on every single transaction.
Right, and that's why experience is important.
Yes.
I learned that. Let's just talk a little bit about surveys. Okay. You'll get some people that sell properties and they say, well, I haven't got a survey. And then you'll get some buyers that say, no, I don't want to buy a survey. What I'm going to tell you is a true story. There was somebody where I did a deal where the seller did not have a survey. It was for he was advertised as 37 acres. Well, in the state of Texas, it's sold on legal description. Mm-hmm. We did a survey and it came out at 42 acres. We went ahead and closed it. The seller did not ask for a copy of the survey. Well, we closed it. Mm-hmm. 3 months after that, the seller called up and said, you need to pay me X amount of dollars because you got 5 acres more than what you should have done. Well, by that time, as far as we were concerned, it was late, it was closed, it was signed off. Funds had been exchanged. Your agent either screwed up or you didn't listen to your agent. Mm-hmm. So the importance of getting a survey is important, because the other part with surveys is it shows the encroachments. You don't know if there's a utility easement. There's a gas line going straight down the middle, and then you can only use half of your land. Right. How do you as a title company get involved in that with the survey? You do that, don't you? And then
meaning we order it for them?
You order it, yeah.
Yes. And depending, we kind of pick and choose. If we know it's a meets and bounds, then we go with, we have a survey company that is good at meets and bounds. And
which is more of a rural, isn't it? Meets and bounds is more of a rural.
Right.
Like our office in Lake Jackson, which is a very rural office, it's normally meets and bounds. Mm-hmm, right. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But in the city of Houston, it's not, is it?
It's not, no. The majority is lot and block. So, we, depending on the transaction, of course, if there's a lender involved, survey is going to be required because of the lender endorsement. On cash transactions, it's up to them, you know, if they want to purchase a survey or not. We don't require it, but I mean, I think they should get it anyways, you know. But that's their
to
choice.
hit a bit more on the survey part, we got involved in a transaction where a survey had been done, meets and bounds. It was rural, and he was a young kid that bought the land, or his parents bought it for him for his birthday, and then basically he put in a septic system and well water, and he put himself a trailer on the house, and he put it in between the little orange tags. Now, the problem is in the country, when you've got all the trees, it's very difficult to know which is which. So he cleared it, he put his septic system in, he did everything, and one day a guy come knocking on his door and says, "You built your trailer on my lot." And the problem was, the guy that bought the house said, "Oh, there's no need to get a survey. If he'd got a survey, he would have known."
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so,
And that's where the agents need to educate their clients for that, because I mean, you know, title company is a third party entity. We don't get involved in it. We just follow what the contract says and amendments and go from there, you know. But that's something that the agents need to educate their clients on. So,
are you familiar with any of the recent changes that Trek have made in Texas with contracts?
I know that there is a change on the HOA addendum. I believe it's the HOA addendum. There was a change about who is to pay for any upfront costs that's needed for, like, the statement of account and I
Resale
believe
certificate.
resale certificate and stuff. Before it wasn't on there, but now it is. So I think that's the last change.
Yeah, and what's your
And
feeling?
is it becoming very popular that most title companies are requesting for the HOAs to be paid up front?
It's not the title company, it's actually the HOA.
Oh, okay.
It's the HOA. The homeowners associations are the ones that require it to be paid up front.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we manage HOAs and we expect it up front.
Because, you know, some title companies, it just depends who you work with. And depending, you know, they'll request it, and sometimes they do not.
Some title companies will put it on the closing statement, and then they'll send us a check for the resale certificate, whether it's on a rush or whether it's just on a regular, you know, basis. But I know it sounds strange, but you know what's even more important to us, because we manage the HOA, we want the name, the phone number, and the email of the people that's buying the house, the new buyers to the house, more than anything else.
Yeah.
And when we send the statement to you as a title company, but we want the name of the new, because it's so difficult when we've got meetings or we've got things to do. I mean, all this has to be, you know, put together. And one of the reasons why I'm glad that you made it today, even though it was sort of last minute, and I'm glad that Laura invited you into the Texas Real Estate Show, but was the fact that people don't understand. You've got all these mechanics that are going on in the process of buying a house. And I was talking to a guy about 6 weeks ago, Hispanic guy, and you know how good my Spanish is. And he says,
awesome.
And he said to me, but it's so much easier to buy a house in Mexico. And I said, well, why is that? Now, this is what he'd done. We manage a HOA. He had gone to the owner within the HOA that we are, just signed an agreement that he was going to be the new owner of the house, registered it in the courthouse. Well, we know that shouldn't be done because attorneys are the one that should be doing contracts and deeds and everything else. You can go and register anything you want at the local courthouse, just give them $6.
Yeah.
All right? Then the yearly HOA fees come round. Well, we had a bill for him because he came in and said, I'm the new owner of the house on da-da-da-da-da. And then we said, okay, well, that's fine, but the old owner hadn't paid the HOA fees for 12 years, so we want you to pay us $6,000. And he's the one now that's holding that bill of $6,000.
Yeah.
You know, and he said, but I wasn't living there then. And I said, well, that's why there's a system, you know, and this is why I think it's so important that, you know, get yourself a good real estate agent. And just like, it's interesting what you said about Stewart Title. Was Stewart Title the first title company in Texas?
I believe so.
That's what I think.
Yes.
That's what I've always been led to believe. And I think it's very important personally to always get yourself a brand name.
Absolutely.
Because I think brand names go on a different standard, not all, but to most smaller companies. In other words, if my agents don't do a good job, have a guess who they jump on? The guy with the black cap. Then if they don't get any satisfaction from me, have a guess who they go to? Century 21 Corporate. So there has to be accountability in that equation.
Absolutely.
With a lot of the smaller companies, unfortunately, because people come to us and they say, well, I've just been with ABC Realty down the street and they've done this, and we know that that shouldn't go on, but the truth of the matter is, the way Trek is, we're not even allowed to comment on their actions because that's considered an unprofessional thing to do for another real estate company.
Right.
Now, you can argue all day long whether you think that's right. Being the arrogant son of a bitch that I am, I think it's wrong. To me, you're there to advise people and you're there to, you know, to just help people.
Absolutely.
Trek's purpose, the Texas Real Estate Commission's main purpose, is to help buyers and protect them from unscrupulous agents, all right, and brokerages. And they're out there. With every industry, you get good and you get bad. And I say to everybody, find yourself a good broker. If you're in doubt at all, call the broker up and your broker will put you in contact. It happens to me every day. People call me up because we have a relocation system, and they call me up and they say, I need an agent in Friendswood, or I need an agent in Galveston that knows the area. And the reason why that's so important now is Trek, one of the new changes with Trek over the last couple of years is they're saying that an agent should have a good knowledge of a specific area. You know, now unfortunately, how do you get that message through to the, you know, the person buying the house? What do? Oh, my sister's a real estate agent. They'll be able to help me. They do maybe one deal a year or 2 deals a year. They can help me do this. And indirectly, it costs them more money to me at the end of the day, and I just can never ever understand it. Even people in my family, they've gone to a new home builder, and the new home builder have given them all these upgrades, you know. Well, you know, we can give you all these upgrades, but you've got to use this lender and you've got to use this title company, And they've come to me and they've said, but you know, this is what they've got. I've gone to the same builder, played hardball, and I've still managed to get the same things that they wanted in the first place, but they're more protected in my opinion because I've managed to go through the right processes with a completely different inspection. You know, with a new home build, you need a different type of inspection. The person in the sales office is not going to recommend that you do a full inspection. Oh, you don't need one of them.
That's true.
They're not licensed. The people in the sales office are not licensed. They're employees of the builder. So do you think they're honestly going to tell you that?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it doesn't make sense. So what other mistakes do you see?
Another mistake that I was just thinking about, survey, that on the contract, you would not imagine how many agents don't know that first little box up there, it says, you know, within a certain amount of days, if the seller provides an existing survey, and if it's not approved, then who has to pay for it? They always think that if they hit that little box and then they pick, you know, set buyer, that the buyer has to pay it, and we're like, did you provide an existing survey? Well, no, they don't have one. Well, per the contract,
but then
it
further
says,
if you read that further
yes,
down, you go,
gotta
you have to
read
choose
it.
buyer or seller.
Yes, it says that the seller needs to provide an existing survey to see if it's approved or not, and if not, then who would pay for it if it's not, right? So there's a lot of misunderstanding there, and they get really upset. But I try to like, hey, don't. It's okay. You're not the only one. And a lot of agents make the mistake.
See, I couldn't do that.
So
I'd be like, do you know your job or do you not know your job?
No,
Because you see,
no.
my opinion is agents need to know their job. They need to know their contracts. It's like the changes that they've just had. How many agents have asked you the last 3 months to 6 months what a PID is, a PID? Property Improvement District.
Oh, okay. The PUD you're talking. Yeah. Oh, and
No, PID.
Yes.
Property Improvement District.
Yes. I agree. And I'm going to tell you, I went through real estate school, so I know what is being taught in real estate school. It's nothing of what it really is in real life. Right. So you really have to, if that's the career you want to be in, you definitely need to get with a mentor, and you definitely need to get with someone to really take you under their wing and really show you, because the contract, they don't, in real estate school, they don't teach.
This is the biggest. We used to go to a local real estate school, and the students that go there have got this automatic thing that the first year they're going to make a 6-figure income. Then they think that I'm just going to do my real estate classes. I'm going to go to a broker. I'm going to go to this broker. Then I'm going to be the success that I am. All right. But how I look on it is, you go to real estate school to learn what you've got to do to get yourself through the real estate classes. Then what you need to do, right? Then what you need to do is to find yourself a good real estate broker that will spend time, that has the systems, whether it be the CRMs and everything else that you need to help your career develop over a number of years. Right. Because the first year I became in real estate, I did pretty well. I thought I did pretty well. I ended up being like, I don't know, what was it? 12th in the office out of like 240 agents at the time, which was pretty good. But I had 83 investment properties at the time. I was selling my own properties to generate money, because when I really learned about real estate, I realized these were the wrong type of properties to invest in. So what did I do? I sold them. And gradually, I built up my portfolio up a little bit more, but with the right type of real estate investing. But that's the thing that I feel agents don't do. And I was talking to a new agent, very smart new agent that we just took him on. And he said to me, if you come into the real estate business, the best thing for you to do is find yourself a good broker. Not necessarily the cheapest broker, not necessarily the most expensive broker,
right,
but find a broker that you feel you can communicate with. Because at times, I say to everybody, you can call me from 9 in the morning to 10 at night, and I'm there to answer my phone. But the important part is, to me, is you've got to get something that you feel that you can become educated on what's happening out there, because what's happening on the streets is completely different. Because when you go through real estate school, they're teaching you the perfect transaction. And the way I explain it to my students in my classes is, it's a little bit like a railway track. You go down a railway track and all of a sudden you get sideswiped, and all of a sudden you're off the track. Then you pull yourself off and you get back on your track, because you're calling the title company, or you're speaking to the surveyor, or you're speaking to somebody else. And then you get half a mile down the road again, and what happens? You get sideswiped again. So all the time you're pulling it back on. It's nothing to do with my commission. If I've ever got involved in a transaction and it smells like cheese, then it is cheese. I'm out of the deal, and I will tell my client, get out of this deal. And I can't tell you how many times, and my clients are still with me to this day, that them clients will come to me because I've told them it's a bad deal. A lot of the deals I do now are basically for investors, and they'll call me and they'll say, but that's basically, I think it's important for agents to understand that. And the problem that I find with a lot of they always bring it back to the bottom dollar. I understand you're in it for money, but if you're in it if you want to build a career, a long-term career in the business, which is I feel very lucky to have been involved in the real estate business, then if you're in it to build a business, you've got to build it right from the bottom.
Absolutely. I very much agree. And you
Foundation is key.
cannot be in it for the money. The money will come by itself. Real estate, it's about integrity, it's about honesty, it's about working for your client and what's best for your client. Bottom line. So
Yeah, and what I will say is we've been investigated by Trek once, which was somebody reported us for something which was just I don't think it was. I just think it was somebody sort of taking a whip and saying, well, because they didn't think something was fair, but it was actually we did it by the Trek rules. And all I will tell with you, when Trek come in and investigate you, the investigators are very fair. There's nothing to be afraid of when you're investigated with Trek. If you've done nothing wrong and you've got nothing to hide, you have no reason to be afraid of Trek. Trek are there as a really good resource. They've improved themselves as a resource, the last 4 years. And what I'll actually tell you is they look into everything. They look into every website. They look into all your social media. Well, I'm glad to say we came out in good shape.
that's good.
We had some recommendations, but they were just recommendations. So, I heard about a company that's been investigated recently for doing a lot of rentals, and they basically been not producing valid rental docs, for different people, which I think is sad. But I just think I wish people would get off Zillow and Realtor.com because they're ruining the industry. There is one thing I wanted to bring up this morning, which I didn't know if you could actually bring it up, Kay. Do you close many deals with Open Door?
Not too many, and maybe one or two, but not too many at all.
Okay.
Because I believe they have their own preferred title company.
Yes, I think they do.
Yeah, I think they do.
Just to let you know, Open Door are what we call a wholesaler, and they're on the national level. And basically, Open Door, what they do is they'll come in and they'll buy your house for a cash offer for the house for maybe $120,000. They'll put $30,000 in the house, and then what they will do is they will basically they'll sell the house for $200,000. We bought some houses from Open Door that people have liked, and we've had the inspections done, and I can't tell you how poor the repairs that have been done on the house are. They're not really up, not to the expectations. But it was announced this morning that Open Door shares have dropped, which really surprised me, to be perfectly honest. I'm trying to find that. I thought I put it in Discord.
Well, Open Door is not the only one. There's quite a few companies out there that are doing the same thing as Open Door. Some of them are more like steered towards certain,
But Redfin have gone up. You are. Here it is. Talk about Western recession. Okay. Open Door lays off 2,000. Here we go.
Western recession.
I just put it in Discord. Open Door layoffs in 2023. What to know about the latest open job cuts? But Open Door, basically, their stock price has dropped down, to an incredible number. It was up. I think it's down to. what was it down to? It was down to a really low number, like $6 at one point, I thought.
It says writing.
You are. Open Doors stock price has gone down to $1.52, and it was at, let me see, a month ago. Well, a year ago it was $7.72. Now you can buy it for $1.52. And Open Door Technologies, you know, I think it can work for some people, but then we've got another article that we wanted to just talk about because I wanted your opinion on it again. Kay, what did you want to talk about? You want to talk about the homes in the west side of town? Is that correct?
The real estate agents that are about to get slammed big time.
That's what I wanted to talk about when it says, because I don't go for that at all. I really do not go for housing market expects very little. The Western housing market, let's talk about that. The Western housing market recession, okay? The Western housing market recession hit so hard and fast that a Fortune 500 firm that was riding high at $34 a share has crashed to $1. That is good old-fashioned Open Door. That was the article. So basically what they've been doing is fixing up the properties. Now Zillow tried to do this, and their division of Zillow collapsed as well, and that's where the Zillow shares went down. I personally feel that the end user, when they use a real estate agent, get more equity out of the home, which is the goal to me of selling a house, is to get that equity and move on to your next house. You get more value if you're using a real estate agent. Is that your thought on the matter than a wholesaler?
In between from a wholesaler.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that you need to definitely use a real estate agent, only because they have the experience and they have the information and the CMA where they can figure out if it's a good deal or not.
Right.
So,
and they have to be more open.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And they're going to care more about their buyer.
Absolutely.
And it's customized then rather just like a transaction.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the last one, let's finish off with real estate agents are about to get slammed. I don't agree with this. Real estate agents are about to get slammed big time. People can say, well, it's because I'm a real estate agent and I've got a brokerage and I'm... No, it's not about that at all. Many won't survive the housing crunch. When Christina Arnold closed her first sale as a real estate agent in December, she hoped it would provide a springboard to more deals and start of a promising career, but almost 4 months later, Arnold is still trying to close a second sale. Well, have a guess why that is. All right, in my opinion is, you're not applying your time, you're not applying your effort, and most of all, have you got the right type of broker? You are Arnold, who lives in Port Huron, Michigan, paid $89 in October 2001 for a self-placed online course to become a real estate agent, but by the time she got her license in June, the typical mortgage rate had nearly doubled, leading a dramatic slowdown in buying activity. What did we just say? Because you've got your license doesn't mean to say that you're going to go out there and make a career of it. And you honestly think because you've got an $89 class that you're going to go out there and make X amount of dollars, a six-figure income?
And it's not easy. Some of these people, maybe during COVID, they were probably sitting there, didn't know what to do, and okay, maybe I should do something different, and they had time. And so, they only look at the bottom line, what the percentage is that the agents, which is the commission, and they just think that they're going to make all this money, right? But they forget that it's not all about that. It's about marketing. It's about who you know. It's about educating yourself. It's about
networking.
yes, networking. So
Let me-
there's more involved than
Let-
just
let me-
going and
I've
taking
got-
a class and passing the test, and now I'm a real estate agent.
Let me read the follow-on for this article, because I've just read the next paragraph, and it's okay. So that dropped off has made the past year a struggle, Arnold told me. The first service she enlisted to help her find clients scammed her out of $600, and that December deal didn't provide the financial windfall she needed. Even though Arnold represented both the buyer and the seller, the $57,000 sale netted her only $2,300 in commission. Now, if your first sale is representing the buyer and the seller, do you think that's a good move?
I don't think so.
When you represent the buyer, like we was just saying,
You can't.
your broker should not have even allowed that. As a new agent, should not have allowed her to represent the buyer and the seller,
I agree.
because the client is not being represented fairly if she doesn't know how to handle. Intermediary, for everybody, just so you know, is when one agent represents the buyer and the seller. All right, there's some buyers out there that say, oh, well, I want you to be my agent, thinking they'll get a better deal, but that's not how it works. It really isn't. Even though Arnold represented both buyer and seller, commission, hardly enough to cover the various fees she pays to her brokerage, the National Association of Realtors, the company that sends her leads, and the multiple listing service, a database where she can see homes for sale in her area. She's occasionally worked at a bar or delivered pizzas to supplement her fiance's income and support her 6-year-old son. Well, I'm sorry that she's got to go to that level. Despite the setbacks, she's not giving up hope just yet. Let me comment on that. If you're with a broker that's worth it, that broker will have a CRM. All right, every agent out there in a multi-listing service has access to the MLS. All right. In other words, you as a new agent are not being unique. So somebody wants to use you, you're just another agent on the street. And this is part of her problem. Do you not think so?
Yeah.
She's not being unique. She hasn't got a different website. She hasn't got a different client relation management system. There's nothing about her that is unique. She's not being coached. She's not being mentored like she should be. She's paying, I don't know how much she's paying a broker per month. I love my job. I love I love the flexibility in it, Arnold told me. The only thing I don't like is the financial insecurity that comes with it. Well, welcome to being self-employed.
I was about to say that.
Yeah.
That's being
Yeah.
self-employed.
Though she remains optimistic, and I'm glad that you're optimistic, darling, Arnold knows the odds are not in her favour. Agents with less than 2 years of experience earned a median gross income of just $8,800 in 2021. Research from the National Association of Realtors found. But daunting statistics like that didn't stop a wave of hopeful deal makers from testing the waters earlier in the pandemic, when booming home prices promised hefty commission checks.
I think a lot of people got into the mortgage industry, and it's not only people in the realtors, it's like in the lending side as well, title side, like all over the industry. They got into it thinking that they were going to make a quick buck because it was booming, right? And they never sat down to think about it like this is only like a small ride,
Temporary.
Well, let me just give you my thing on this. First of all, I think the standard that is required to become a broker is far too low. Make it expensive.
Yeah, make it difficult.
Make it. I think the governing bodies to become a broker should be expensive.
Don't you only need like 3 years of experience?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Right.
So what have you got? You got somebody that's part-time, that's a broker, all right? And I think indirectly, I think they're ruining the industry. I think what you should have, the way you get higher standards is you make your training a little bit harder. you need to raise your standards, and I think the price and the requirements to become a broker are far too less. You know, I did a class yesterday with 7021, and it was really interesting, and we were talking about what we call a value proposition at our office. And one of the things that some agents don't even have anymore, they don't have anybody at the front desk. So when I've got a client that needs to drop off an earnest money check or a rental check or a deposit check, they've got no way to deliver it or get a receipt. So you've really got new agents into the business need to look at this in a business light. What does your office offer you? And to do it properly, I'm sorry, you don't come cheap. You know, our agents have, you know, we've got agents that have smashed it over the years. We had one part-time agent. I think they earned over maybe 200,000. But a lot of that is the backup that they've got, and I think it's so important. It's just like you. I do just want to finish off with one thing. Now I've had my holler. Talk about what underwriting is.
The underwriter. So the underwriter is if we come into some type of hiccup that we're just not really sure, you know, what to do in a situation, then the underwriters are attorneys that represent and say, you know, if they're the ones that will tell us or mentor us or give us guidance as to what needs to happen to make sure that they can insure the transaction.
And then the underwriting department from the title company work with your underwriter?
No, it's a different underwriter.
No, it's totally different.
So
title has their own
underwriters.
And the escrow officer, normally if there's a problem, they will communicate with the lender and with the agent
Right.
on what's going on.
So the lending underwriter is only about the loan, and the title company underwriter is for
So my question to you is, where's the meeting point in between?
From the lender's underwriter and the title company
To make sure
underwriter?
that you got your ducks in a row and she's got her ducks in a row.
Teamwork.
Yeah.
It's teamwork.
Okay.
Because, you know, we have to ask all the questions as well. Not only the agent, but we have to ask the questions. And
Because you've got to make sure that when you do a loan,
so that there's no delays
Right.
on our end.
Right.
and you've got to make sure that when you do the loan, it's collateralized and there's something to collateralize it.
Right. And they need some documents that title has to give them because we're insuring the transaction. And then on our part as a title company, we need to make sure that title's cleared. We need to make sure that, you know, we're charging, you know, everything that needs to be charged, if there's any taxes due, and if so, you know, how much do we need to collect. Also for HOAs, we have to make sure that the HOA, you know, part of the HOA is up to date as well. And, you know, they charge their fees too, like a transfer fee and stuff like that. So we have to make sure that is done. Survey, you know, is a survey required? Usually when there's a lender involved, it is. You know, so it's a time frame for everything. So
Right.
it's a communication back and forth.
And then before I sign off, I'm going to take a poke at both of you. Now, we all know that the rules are that the closing statement has got to be produced for the buyer and the seller within 3 days, correct?
3 days before closing.
3 days
Or
before
3 day
closing.
rule.
How often does that happen?
I don't.
I hope Trek aren't listening, by the way, just to let you know.
Well, so for us, you know, we give a prelim. So I don't know if that's the prelim that you guys are needing, or.
So we always use the prelim to submit disclosures because it's a team effort. Right?
Because now the closing statement is done by the lender, is it not?
The closing statement?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the CD is done by the lender, but depending on what title companies, you know, is in the transaction, some title companies do not like to send a prelim CD like Stewart does. They actually like to create their own settlement, which it's easier for them to read, which we have to explain that between the buyer, why are they looking at some numbers and why are they looking at other documents. So
Yeah.
it's a team effort. So, you know, as a lender, you have to customize to all the team members in the transaction, whatever is your buyer's needs.
Buying a house is such a mess, or can be such a mess. That's all I'm going to say.
And there's just a lot of people involved, and that's why it's important, for lenders and for agents to pick the title company that you like to work, that everybody can be on the same page and work together as a team, because it's like sitting in a canoe boat. If one person's rowing this way, then if we're all rowing the same way, we're going to be going to the end of the line. But if we're all going different ways, we're just gonna flip over, and it's just gonna be
we just go around in circles. It's more fun when you go around
it's a different. It's gonna be a bad
it's
experience.
Not fun when you go in circles.
No,
Believe me,
it's
I've been
not.
going in circles for something on 2 months now, and it's not fun.
Yeah,
because it affects the buyer
and the seller too.
And the seller.
Well, the seller gets frustrated.
Yes,
the seller can walk away, or say, "Yeah, I'm just gonna pick up my money,"
Yeah.
But everybody has to play ball and
and it's all about communication. It's all about communication
It's a big
throughout
part
the
of
whole
it.
process. Huge.
Yeah.
So.
Anyway, with that being said, we're going to wrap up the Texas Real Estate Show for another week. I want to thank Miss Laura. You would like to sort of sign off and say how people can get hold of you?
Loans by Laura. No,
Loans by Laura. There you go.
There you go.
Go on.
So,
how do they contact you?
832-274-9841 or Laura at lspmortgage.com.
And yourself from Stewart Title.
And my Angelita from the Gulf Freeway office at Stewart Title off of Featherwood. Also, I want to share too, we're pretty bilingual in that office. So if you have any bilingual clients, Spanish speaking, we pretty much handled the whole transaction, even at the closing table, fluently in Spanish. So you can contact me at 281-481-3327. I definitely have an amazing assistant. Her name is Candy, and we are awesome. So
I love Candy.
Come by and try us out. See if you like us. And if you have any questions, call me. Again, the number is 281-481-3327.
And do you have any free continuing education classes coming up?
We do. I don't know of any, but Rachel Saunders is our marketing rep. If you want to go to our Facebook page and join, she's giving, she has classes. The majority of the time is twice a month. So look us up or call us if you have any questions. We also, Stewart Title provides helping to make your business successful. We have, different platforms of softwares that can help you market in the areas that you want to specialize in. So if you definitely need that, it's farming. I believe it's farming. We also have one-on-one classes to kind of touch base a little bit about the title commitment, what the title company does, and it explains a little bit more on the commitment and tax certs and stuff. So call us if you need any help. We're here to make you grow and to help you be successful. So
that's what it's all about.
That's
it
what
really
it's
is.
all
That's
about,
why you're in the
yes.
business, to be a success.
Absolutely.
Takes a teamwork.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So until then, same time, same channel next week. Please be happy. As I said, welcome to the party. It's time to sort of close the party down. Want to thank Kay in the background, and happy birthday, Kay.
Happy birthday.
It's so nice to have you in Texas. We're glad you're not in California no more. Anyway, until next week, next Thursday, 12 o'clock, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. See you next week. Thank you.
Thank you.